Well, again, I'm Doug Bowling, and what I'm going to demonstrate this evening is how to do one of these lattice type tops for a box. And in this case, I'm going to use the body of the box. The lid would be here, so that I'm going to work with this piece. Now, the lattice work comes about because you're doing off-center turning, and the jig that I use for doing that, and you can make these very simply. Just start with a block of wood. I've turned in here a place to grip it with my chuck, so I can hang on to it with a 2-inch chuck. And then I drill a hole right in the middle of it, and then I can drill these other holes wherever I choose. Whatever offset I want, doesn't matter. You just drill a hole in, do it on a drill press so they're straight in. But you can, I've got a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch and different distances out. That depends on the amount of offsets you want on it. Because if you were turning with a more offset, you might want this thing bigger in diameter. Because once you do the offset, you want some support for it. But the one I'm going to turn this evening, this one here, is diameter that I can put on here. Stuck on here right now is some double-faced tape. That's going to help hold it so it doesn't come off the pegs. The pegs that you see here are just to drive it. Okay, so it's a very simple thing to make. And of course, when you put a piece on that's centered, but then you turn it so that the pegs, the piece that you're mounting on, and I'll drill it so you'll see exactly how it's mounted on there, but it just moves it off center, whatever the offset that you've done there. But we're going to start by parting this off, and that'll be the lid, and I'll show you the process then of doing the lid. We're not going to work with the body of it. I'll do that later, and so that it will fit to this. And again, you would not have to have the lid fit onto a body like this. The one I've got over there that's a different shaped body, you can do whatever you want as far as the shape of the body on it. We'll put these on just for safety. Pardon?
At this point, you're just cutting the lid off. You're not worried about how you're going to fit it in the box or anything.
No. Just separating the two pieces. Now I could go in here and start to prepare this. It's just going to fit down on top of there like that. So. Well, I'm going to back this out of here.
Hold your face right with your tongue right.
Okay, it's 3/8 inch drills, what I'm going to use there.
That drill bit there is related to the size pin you put in that other piece.
Pardon?
This hole you're drilling there is related to the pin you have on this other piece.
The pins are 3/8 inch. I'm drilling a 3/8 inch hole in the center of this one. I got it marked. I'm going to go 1/2 inch deep. Now I got to drill the offset hole.
So you drilled 2 holes in this?
Yeah, I'm going to drill an offset hole now, which will be to the amount of offset that I want on it.
Oh, okay.
Now I normally would take that out and do it in a drill press, but we don't have a drill press. But I'll use this thing as a guide. And one of my pegs. Okay, and now I'm going to use the 5/8 inch offset. I got it marked on the other side, make sure I get the right one. Okay. Okay, so we just go in and I'll mark it. Now, if that enough tape left, yeah, I can tell. Now, you got to go, try to go straight in. This is where a drill press would be a lot better. Okay. Now the first thing I'm going to do is mount it so that it's on center, because I want to get rid of this spigot that I had on here to grip it, so I want to get rid of that.
So you set it in the center first.
So it's in the center first. Okay. This is just a scraper I'm going to use to smooth it up. Okay, we're going to do a little sanding on that, because we don't want to sand it afterwards.
What's that little thing you got in your right hand?
Well, that's an offset drill. I've got 3 of these. This is what I use for all my sanding, because it allows you on a bowl to just go right in and around. It'll work for all kinds of stuff. So 55-degree offset. They're expensive buggers, but compared to one where you're straight out on a regular drill, this thing beat it all to heck. That'll be good enough for this. All right, now we're going to do the offset. Okay, see, there's the 2 holes I had drilled in it, so you can see what that is. And now when I put it on here, the other way around, now you can see how it is. Now we're offset. Now I got a pencil here somewhere. I mean, there's a point here where there's a center on the thing.
Right over top of that pin, right?
That's right there's the center. But what I want to do, when I cut these grooves in, I don't want one that comes and exits out of this wood. So I want to come through like right there. Now if I move that out further and cut in, I would have an area here that would have real sharp edges on it. I don't want to have that. But I will put another one like here, and I'll put another one out like here. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'll go through and I'll cut those, and I'll cut the ones on the inside here also. But you sort of have to decide how many of those do you want to put in there. I usually put them probably 3/16 to a 1/4 inch apart, but that's, you know, whatever you want to do. Now I'm going to start using, again, this parting tool to initially do it, and then I'll finish it up with a little tool I've made. And the reason I have to go to a different tool is this thing, once you get back in here very far, back on it, all of a sudden it can't go around these tight turns. So you got to have a different kind of a tool that can reach in that's narrow all the way. But this I used to get them initially in. Now you're going to find when I'm cutting the ones here, it's a nice smooth cut. As I move out, you'll hear it start going because it's only cutting wood part of the time.
What speed do you have going?
Right now I'm right almost 1,000. Okay, we're going to do the first one right here. And I'm just going to do this, you know, by guess. I'm not marking it all out. If you want to give them all exact, you can mark them out. Okay, now so you can see what we got. I guess you can pick that up, but you can see the pattern I've got. And that's, I'm not going to do another one out here, but that's the pattern. Now I have to get them all to the same depth, and that's what I'll use my other tool for. Now this is something I made. Could have had that in show and tell, I guess. You know what that is? You go to a dentist, they use them all the time to clean your teeth. And I just took and cut the end off from it, because this is really good material. And it's nice and narrow coming out there. I've just sharpened it on the end so I can go in and set it on here and just cut right on in. And I've got this marked the depth I want to go.
We've got a couple of those that are not as straight.
So how do you sharpen those? Is like a scraper?
Yes. Well, they should be all pretty much the same depth. Maybe you can see the angle. I've just taken, sharpened it, and just got a slight angle on it, so that it cuts. No, I mean it's very small cutting area, so there's no problem with holding it. But,
Can you go with it?
yeah, it's good steel.
How deep can you go?
I'm going in.
Till it breaks.
Quarter?
No, I'm not going a quarter because my total thickness of my lid is only going to be about a quarter. I want to go a little over half of that. And I'll do a little over half from the other way. So that's, I've done it from this side now. And I've got it to the depth I want to go. Now I'm going to do a little more sanding with a finer sandpaper. Now, I don't want to go to the real fine stuff, but what you would do is get it to whatever level you wanted it. Okay, so the outside's done. Now we got to get that back off in there again. Okay. Now we'll turn it and do it from the other side. You'd either have to make a jam chuck or have a chuck like I've got that's made that'll clamp on the outside of that thing. You'll notice I had that groove cut in there, and there's a reason for that, because that's how I make sure I center this thing. Now that hole should be in the center yet. How about that?
Don't you leave jaw marks on,
It is so close to the same diameter that you're not going to see any marks on it. And you could clean it up later if you wanted to. Okay, now we're going to clean out the inside of this. I know how deep to go because I know I got the holes I drilled in there. That's my depth mark. So I'll just go on in there and clean that up. Now I'm going to use a square end scraper, and I'll go on in here and this a lot. I have one of these, and they'll do a nice job of cutting that right across there. Should anyway.
Who gave you the dull one?
I think you need to sharpen it.
Show us how to sharpen it.
The other side. Okay. Do that corner yet. I'm going to check to see my depth. Yeah, I still got a little ways to go on that. Main thing you don't want to do is cut through and ruin it. When I drilled that second hole, I got a little bit deeper on that one. notice by the sound, it's starting to sound thin in there. So, okay, I think we're there. I go back to this one again.
You don't worry if you don't get it flat there in the bottom?
Not particularly.
You're gonna take care of that later.
After I cut all these grooves, I'll go in and sand it because it'll be just, less than half as much wood to sand at that point.
Just go long enough until you see light through there, is that how you do that?
Yep. I can see the other marks in there.
Yeah, I can see a few of them now too.
Okay, now if I was doing this, I would also sand the inside of this to get that a little smoother than it is right now, but for the demo, we're not going to do that. We'll take it out, and I'll show you what final thing I have to do on it. Because when you cut that wood, there's going to be some of those fibers that don't get cleanly cut. So now you get out this little tool that they scrape off the plaque with, and you can just go right on here and you can just clean that right up. It'll go right in and clean up all those little holes.
Part dentist, part woodworker.
Everybody be calling for a dentist appointment tomorrow.
Don't the dental technicians do that?
Hey, there's good practice for that.
Actually, you take it with you when you go to get your teeth cleaned and say, while you're at it, fix this.
But anyway, that's what we do, is clean it all up at the end and then put your finish on it. You'll see some fibers in it. You can pass that on around and take a look at it. That's the process. Now if you used hard maple, it would cut cleaner than the walnut does. So it depends a little bit on the wood, but if you take and hold it up to the light, you can see the pattern that's in there. And depending on the offset, you get different patterns. It'll look a little bit different depending on how much you offset it.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.